Hello, I'm Doug Smith, and this is the 17 August 2012 edition of Portsmouth This Week, the voice of Portsmouth Town Hall. Our guest today is John Klimm, the Town Administrator. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
John's going to talk to us a little bit about what's been going on at the Town Council this week. They had a special meeting on Tuesday because Monday was VJ Day in Rhode Island. What happened of interest there, John?
Well, we had actually a lengthy meeting, which started with the whole issue of the Sakonnet River bridge tolls, that whole issue, which is obviously a major issue, not only for residents of Portsmouth, but island-wide. A wonderful group of citizens have formed. They have been around with petitions or whatever. They're trying to do all they can do to convince the governor and the state government to reconsider the vote to place a toll on this bridge. We have a legislative delegation that has worked long and hard, but it has been an uphill battle, and we heard from many residents who are very concerned that the business community in Portsmouth and on the island are going to be impacted, and just residents that are going to be impacted as well. So I give them a tremendous amount of credit for working hard to speak with one voice to our governor. The governor will be visiting this next week, and I'm sure there'll be a strong presence of residents there to send a strong message to the governor that they should reconsider this policy. When we got into the meeting, there were several updates. First of all, as you know, we are both in the process of hiring a new fire chief and also conducting an operational audit in the entire fire department. The process for hiring the application stage is closed. We had 62 candidates, 13 of which are from the state of Rhode Island, so we were pleased with the number of applications, and we're in the process of beginning that evaluation as well. Obviously a very important position for our town government, and we're going to do everything possible to make sure that the most qualified candidate gets the position. At the same time, we have a firm that is looking at the operations of the fire department, and I give them a lot of credit. They have come to town, and they aren't like sitting back from a long distance dictating to us what we should do. They are including the fire department administration and also the rank and file employees, as well as neighboring fire departments, residents, and other parties as well, seeking to try to come up with a series of recommendations to become more efficient, but more importantly to save money in the operations of the fire department. As you know, we have had an issue about overtime that really has been a huge budgetary issue, so we need to bring that in line, and they will be presenting a series of recommendations in that regard. We also discussed the ongoing issue of the easement, the proposal to place an easement on the Glen properties, and we have a group of folks that have painstakingly gone through word by word the actual easement, because the document is a document that is in perpetuity, so we have to make sure that all the bases are covered, and I suspect that in the next several weeks we will begin to sit down with Ted Clement and the land trust folks to begin negotiating that document. The commitment of the council was to have an election next spring, so the citizens of Portsmouth will ultimately make the decision as to whether they want a easement placed on the property in perpetuity, and that's the way it should be. It's their property, their taxpayers' dollars paid for it, and they should be given the ability to make a decision. We went over issues such as the implementation of Code Red. As you know now, a decision has been made to go with a company called Code Red for a communication system that will allow us the opportunity to call every household in Portsmouth if there is a hurricane or other natural disaster, or if there's a other type of an emergency or whatever. So that's kind of an exciting time. You don't really know the value of this communication system until you need to use it, but it will be in place. It's actually beginning to be up and running now, so we're going through staff training, and very shortly we will unveil the operations of the plan, so that residents will know that they can go onto the town website make sure that we have the right information in terms of phone numbers, and also allow them to supplement their information if they want to put an email address in, or if they have a cell phone that they want to include, they'll be able to do that as well. So that's an exciting new venture for the town of Portsmouth, and I think it's one that is badly needed.
Yeah, a nice thing about that system, as I understand it, is that you can also selectively dial certain areas that are particularly at risk without dialing everybody, which I think
absolutely.
is kind of
if there's a utility, a gas leak, or if there's a big emergency accident, what have you, if there's a child that's been abducted and the police want to contact several neighborhoods, they can actually call townwide, or they can zoom right in on the computer to a single street if need be. So it's a powerful tool that I think is in our best interest to implement.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we've needed that for some time, and I congratulate you for bringing it to Portsmouth.
We have had several visits lately from our friends on Prudence Island. I'll be going to Prudence Island over the next 3 or 4 weeks to sit down with their planning commission and other officials to talk about issues related to Prudence Island. I had an opportunity to meet Peter Hess and some representatives from Hog Island as well, and so I'm trying to, as a new town administrator here, get around as much as possible. Last week I sat down with the Harbor Commission. They're doing some great work in terms of long-range harbor planning and issues dealing with our moorings and whatever, so, and waste to water, so I give Chairman Irwin and his committee a lot of credit for their work as well.
That sounds great. Anything else you'd like to comment on?
I know you'll be talking about this, but I'm very excited as the town administrator here about the activities recently over the 375th anniversary. We really want to have a year-long series of events, and I think it's remarkable how many people have come out that are supporting this activity, and I know that you'll be providing information soon about how more people can get involved in this.
Yes, we'll be talking about that in a few minutes, but I'd like to express my appreciation to you, John, for your support in this 375th. I think it will be a kind of a neat event for everybody to get involved in. Okay, thank you very much. The second part of our program today, our special guest is Gary Gump, good personal friend of mine, but also very active on the 375th anniversary of Portsmouth's founding celebration committee. And Gary's got a few questions today. Hi, welcome, Gary.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and I'm excited and looking forward to whatever we come up with for the 2013 celebration. And I do have a few questions.
Okay.
Just exactly what are we planning to do for this year-long celebration? I mean, what do you think we're going to accomplish overall?
Well, I think one thing we'll do is we'll bring the community together. I'd like to see just about everybody in the community involved in some way. At the very least, they can attend the events, but I'd like to see a lot of people out there planning. And I think it's a unique opportunity. How often does a town turn 375 years old? Once. I think there are very few communities in even New England that can even point back that far to when they were founded. So I think this is just a great chance to bring the whole community of Portsmouth together to get everybody working towards something positive about this beautiful town we live in.
Well, that's great. I think we're thinking about having something going on the entire year. What do you envision why are we doing this for a whole year rather than just maybe one gigantic week-long celebration? Good
question. Probably because the original founding of Portsmouth took place over a whole year, but the thing goes back to the Portsmouth Compact, which was signed up in Boston on 7 March 1638, and that kind of marks the founding of Portsmouth. These were people who were basically relieving the Boston Plymouth colonies because of religious differences, and they wanted to have religious freedom. So 19 of them signed this Portsmouth Compact. They came down. They were followers of Anne Hutchison from Boston, people involved, including her husband, and they came down on the way to. They were originally headed to New Jersey, and they went through Providence, and they talked to Roger Williams, who had been here since 1636, and he convinced them that they should look at Aquidneck Island. And Roger Williams interceded with 2 Wampanoag chiefs, Canonicus and Miantinomi, who gave this group of people land on what we now know as Portsmouth today. And they eventually, over the entire course of the year, they came here and founded it. Again, originally coming into Founders Brook, which they could reach by water at that time. So the 7 March date really just marks the Portsmouth Compact, but the founding of Portsmouth essentially took place over the whole year.
Great. Well, it's like you said before, it's going to be a fascinating time. It'll be an interesting opportunity to learn a lot more about our history. When do you expect the first event to occur?
I don't really know, but I'm hoping that we do a Patriots Plunge, a 375th Patriots Plunge on New Year's Day, 2013, off Island Park. I know Bob Hamilton's working on that. He's 74 years old, and he does it every year, and he has dared all of us to join him. I haven't committed yet, but I'm tending that way because I think we probably should support this thing. Wow. So that would be the first one, New Year's Day. Cool.
That's great. Well, I know I've been down there a couple times with a towel for Bob. It does look pretty cold, though. I suppose I'll get shamed into the same thing. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Anyway, how did this all get started?
Well, I brought up the idea with John Klimm, the new town administrator. Actually, I should just call him our town administrator, I guess, now. He thought it was a great idea. In fact, he even got $1,000 put aside in the town's budget to get things started. But since then, we've had a lot of people get excited and interested and involved in this thing. We've only had one meeting, one kind of informal meeting. That was last week at the library. We're having another more organizational type meeting this coming Thursday at 3 o'clock at the Portsmouth Free Library. The public, anybody that's interested in learning more about it or helping out or volunteering should come down and just sit in on it. And I just think it's a great way to get everybody spun up about our town.
You know, I think it's a great idea too, and I think it does a lot of things for us. It makes us all feel a little bit better about our community. Also gives us a chance to shine as a spot for potential business and other things here in Portsmouth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's involved in the planning? And you mentioned a little bit of it a moment ago, but how is it being organized?
Okay, one of the things we're trying to do, again, this is just something that's just been going on now for about a week and a half. The way I eventually see this thing being organized is to have a relatively small steering committee and then the actual, all the work and the development, creation, and conduct of these different events would be done by the many committees and other organizations that we have in Portsmouth. And the steering committee would essentially be there to kind of support through publicity and other things, fundraising, perhaps funds, and just coordinating the calendar here, because Aquidneck Island, as you know, in the summer gets very busy. Yeah. And we don't want to be stepping on what other towns are doing at the same time. So I kind of a decentralized approach. Again, a small steering committee, which I hope will form this coming Thursday, and then other town committees out there working on things. For example, I'm also a member of the Bristol Ferry Town Commons Committee, and our committee should be looking at doing something specifically and just coordinating it with the steering committee. That's the way I see it being organized.
So basically, we're trying to get the word out to all these other town committees and activities like 4-H and all these other guys, and inviting them to come up with some of their own ideas about how to celebrate.
Yeah, and you know, the initial start of this thing, that first meeting we held was basically, this was just a list of people who I happen to have their emails, and I happen to think that they'd be interested in helping out. Now I found that, for example, the 4-H is on board. They want to help and do something. We've got some response from the Commodore of the Tiverton Yacht Club, for example, who would be interested in doing regattas, perhaps, and over here in Portsmouth. So now we're finding people that are more and more interested in helping out. So essentially, what we want to do is make this a community-wide event. Right. So everybody can have a part of this thing. I'd love to see major participation by the schools. It seems to me there are so many things that the schools could do to help out. And but the way I see doing it is this small group just coordinating what everybody else does.
Getting a message out to everyone.
Yeah, and I find that the more people learn about it, almost everybody has been very positive so far.
Well, you mentioned the schools. It seems to me like this is, like a once in 375 years opportunity for for the schools and the students of the schools to participate in real history of a location. Have you got a response yet? Or are you working with the school department?
I'm still working on a response. One of the things I think the steering committee should have is it should have people that are kind of the focal point for things like fundraising, publicity, marketing, finance, events, maybe communications, technology. But we also need business, school, and town liaisons that will be the point people for working within their communities to try to support this thing. And as you say, I think there are plenty of opportunities here for our kids to get involved in projects, plays, contests, photo shows, all kinds of stuff. With a focus, I think, the other thing I probably should mention, I think the general focus of this entire effort is kind of on Portsmouth history. We have a fascinating history, and in addition to educating our own residents about it, we need to be showcasing it to the rest of the world.
So it seems like one of the biggest issues is going to be getting the opportunity for these other folks to participate out in front of them so they know about it, and then to also give them some ideas about a range of events that they might participate in or might come up with on their own.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
absolutely.
there's no lock on the ideas here. So, what kind of events are you looking at?
I got a million of them. As Jimmy Durante once said, literally, we've sat down and in the last week or so, I've gotten things from people all over the place with some great ideas. Just a couple, just to give you an example.
Take your time.
we got plenty
got
of time.
Got a long list there. We need to get them out in front of everyone.
For example, sports events, things like maybe a cross-river swim from Fogland to Sandy Point Beach. But even that, even smaller, we have swimming classes in the summer, and maybe at the end of the classes, we'd have some kind of a little competition. And I'd like to think we could get Elizabeth Beisel down here at some point to maybe coach the kids a little bit or inspire some of our young kids. Sailing events, some kind of small boat sailing things, either off Sandy Point Beach or off Island Park Beach, or even in the Cove.
How about in the Cove, yeah.
I was going to say the Cove would be great for opties or small boats like that. But also, how about things like kayak races? If you watch the Olympics, they actually have events in there about kayak races. You and I couldn't join, of course, because we're not fast enough.
We're too slow, right.
But the thing is, those are just a few of the kind of sporting events, soccer tournaments, a whole bunch of things. Musical events, concerts, plays, performances at places like the Glen, the Common Fence Point Center. Also local business and restaurant promotions and things. I mean, we should be showcasing the best of Portsmouth, and I think we have it here. We just have to introduce it to people. I'd like to see some performances of history-related plays, perhaps, by the Portsmouth Community Theater. Maybe a tall ship visit to Melville.
Maybe get the Eagle to come.
Yeah, maybe the Eagle. That's one of the largest ones, and we might be able to do that. Maybe even a parade and a fireworks. That's like the high end. And that's something, if people are interested in supporting the idea of a parade, and maybe we could combine it with a fireworks and a massive town cookout somewhere, at one of the beaches or somewhere.
Or Glen Park, maybe.
Glen Park would be perfect for that. We need to start working on those big events now and starting to get them going. But this is a short list. I just brought, you've already seen my list, but this is a short list. This is just a short list of stuff that we've come up with so far.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know if you guys can see this in the camera or not, but I guess I should show it to Bob.
Yeah.
But
some 27 ideas.
There's a million things here,
Yeah.
And you can't read it, but believe me, there's a zillion ideas here. So I think any of these are possible.
Okay, that's great. Now, so to back up a minute to what you said a little bit earlier about how we're organized, what you're really looking for then are like these, at the steering committee level, to have a chair for kind of each major grouping of events, like the sporting events, so they would kind of coordinate all that, and the yacht clubs would work with the chair.
Well, like I say, I think we could do it with some person that's responsible for events, because under the events you have all these other different things. And as I see, you'd have a vice chair, we'll call him or her, who is kind of the focal point for all that stuff on the committee. The committee would have to get together every so often And the key thing a committee will do, the steering committee,
coordinate it,
will
right?
be to coordinate it on a calendar.
And publicize it.
Yeah.
Right?
And we already have things. We have a website,
Right.
and we're working on getting content on that.
I think that information is probably running under, as we're talking here.
It will be shortly if it
yeah,
isn't already.
yeah,
And we have a Facebook page. We have a users group, a Google users group, which is really important because it's a way of exchanging ideas and discussing things online. So there are plenty of ways to get involved in this stuff, but that's the way I kind of see it. So a small group just kind of coordinating things with other people, talking to them. And for example, somebody sailing might say, look, we need $200 for prizes or something. They come to us, we figure out how we can fundraise to get that.
And so fundraising would be another entity that we'd be
absolutely, and that would be a very important one, and we're looking for somebody who's really proactive in that.
Right, exactly,
to get out there and do that. And the same thing with our local business community. We're looking for somebody to be the vice chair or for business liaison to go out there and really actively contact people, help them, encourage them to come forward.
And again, it seems to me, to the point you were making a moment ago, again, if folks are watching this, the simplest way, even if you can't make the meeting next Thursday, there's going to be at 3 o'clock at the Portsmouth Library, right? If you can't make that meeting, there are a couple of websites. So there's info at Portsmouth RI 375 that you can send in your information or your interest to, and someone will get back to you so that you can, I mean, don't not participate because you can't come to the meeting on Thursday. Let us hear from you.
I think you're absolutely right. In fact, I would say that about any meeting that we held. Just because you miss a meeting, and I know this 3 o'clock thing is tough for some people who are working. We will be changing the time probably to more like, I don't know, 5:30 or 6 o'clock, so that people who work can come to this thing as we go down the road here. But yeah, there are plenty of other ways of contacting us and just expressing your desire. The other thing is, talk to the committees you're involved in already. You know, if you're on the Conservation Committee, talk to them. What can we do for the 375th and come up with some ideas.
Right. And what about, I suppose, if we're thinking about it from the perspective of the island-wide thing, we're going to have to make sure that we're able to coordinate so we don't have plan some event in Portsmouth on the day that we have 500,000 cars coming over the Tiverton Bridge and driving right through the middle of us. So we're going to have some kind of liaison or communications, right, with
absolutely,
whether it's Aquidneck Island Planning or whether it's the Newport County Chamber of Commerce
or some. Sure, absolutely. We need people to liaise with in those areas, because that's a key element of the steering committee would be to keep this thing coordinated and keep a master calendar.
Right.
And this master calendar, as it gets fleshed out, will be available online. So people can go to and say, what's going on in Portsmouth this week or this month.
Do you think that, or do you know whether or not we've had any opportunity yet to consider like getting maybe the Navy Band or even in another kind of a musical venue going up to Boston Pops or seeing something about asking them to come down here? Is that
was number 4 on my list, Gary.
Oh, is that?
As a matter of fact.
Geez.
But yeah,
well, we held it up so quick I couldn't read it.
Well, I know. What we need to do is figure out who knows a contact for these folks.
Right.
One of the interesting things is one of the ladies who came to the first meeting, and I'm very impressed already with her work. Carolyn Evans.
CEC, Carolyn Evans
Carberry. She's already contacted Miss USA.
Yeah. Wow.
Who I'd like to meet personally, but the thing is, so I mean, we already have people out there talking, and she's the one that got the Tiverton Yacht Club guy for me. So we're already working this, but we need people. If people know who to contact.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that was why I was asking.
We will be following these things up, and again, initially at least, I don't think we should throw anything off the table.
Right.
You know, even something like a parade and where we'd have it, all this stuff is doable. You just have to start planning and start thinking about it early.
And back up again to the school side of the house, I suppose like the Portsmouth Abbey and some of the other private schools that are here in Portsmouth would also be candidates for that type of application?
Absolutely, and I'd love to see Roger Williams involved. I'm sure they have a band. I'm sure they have, I know they have a great sailing team. They have other stuff, and again, but we just need people who have points of contact.
What about, I wonder what about like a reenactors or something along that line? I mean, you know, Fort Butts and Butts Hill over here, that was a major revolutionary
Absolutely.
area.
And those things are in the works. We're talking with Kathy Abbas, who runs the, she's got the kind of purview to look at developing a museum eventually at Fort Butts. She's part of this planning effort. They're interested in doing something. Reenactment, again, Bristol Ferry Town Common. The British, when the British occupied Rhode Island in 1776 through 78, they had a garrison right down here near the Common. It was actually up by where the old golf course was. But they used to trade cannon fire with the Patriots over in Bristol all the time. It'd be kind of cool to have a small contingent of redcoats and a cannon, and maybe we can get the sloop Providence to sail up by, because part of their job was to keep the Patriot Navy from getting out.
Right.
So the sloop Providence could pass by and they could have an exchange of hopefully blanks, but I mean, it'd be kind of a cool...
Maybe they could do that over under the Tiverton Portsmouth Bridge. And see.
No, we got to do it on this side. That's where the town common is. But you know, the point is that yes, there are plenty of opportunities. The Battle of Rhode Island is a major one. Barton's Raid, my favorite thing, where Colonel William Barton went over and with 40 men and 5 small boats, and they snuck up. They came over to the west side of the island, and they snuck up a ravine up to where we call it Prescott Farm, and they captured the British general that was running all the soldiers on the island and his aide, and they took him back, and they got away totally unopposed, because by the time the British had set the alarm, they were all looking on the other side of the island. They thought he would have come across directly. But it was just a great tactical move, and one of the undersung things, I think, in our history. But this happened right here in Portsmouth.
Well, you know, I'm sure there's a million other parts of that we could discuss. Like, for instance, thinking about maybe if we went to the Scouts, maybe they want to do some kind of a encampment. Maybe they want to do some kind of an encampment over, you know, like at Founder's Brook, for an overnight encampment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I don't know whether the Scouts have a way to, or the Boy or Girl Scouts have a way to incorporate some kind of a merit badge or something in this 375th effort. But that would be another way to maybe get involved in doing that.
Yeah, Scouts would be great. The Historical Society is key. There are a lot of key elements out there. And again, but the whole Founder's Brook thing is interesting. It'd be kind of interesting to have a reenactment, perhaps, of the first getting together there of these folks that settled the town.
See if we have enough information available to kind of historically reenact that to some extent.
Yeah, something like that.
And maybe perhaps go back and really do a little bit more research on the Portsmouth Compact. I think you were talking about it the other day.
And this is something that, you know, we've got great historians in town, Jim Garman, we've got Gloria Schmidt, and a bunch of other people who know much more about it than I do. The thing is, all this is going to eventually, parts of these are going to cost money. Yes, we need volunteers, and they're vital. With no volunteers, we can't do anything.
Right. Well, so clearly the meeting next week on Thursday is going to be a kind of a major launch for this whole effort.
That'll be a key one, but I think we need to find somebody specifically to work the fundraising issues, and I'm thinking of, you know, doing things like having some kind of memorabilia, like T-shirts, coffee mugs.
Maybe we could approach the vineyard and get like a 375th bottle.
As we spoke with Nancy yesterday, she's, I think, amenable to at least thinking about some of these great ideas. And
the one about having a recipe book, you know, where you pay a little bit to get in, and then you buy it.
Yeah, it can be a 375th recipe booklet.
Well, I think we'll find a lot of folks that are willing to put either their effort, personal direct effort into it, or to contribute to it to make it all happen. I think it's going to be an exciting time. I'm really looking forward to participating in it with you.
Yeah, and again, there are ways to communicate with us or to learn more about it. They're up on your screen there, and I invite everybody in town, everybody literally, to get involved somehow. This is something we should all be very proud of.
Take the plunge.
Take the
plunge. Patriot Plunge.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much. See you the next time.